Welcome to Millennial Pagan Podcast, the podcast that's discussing issues and hot topics influencing the pagan world from a millennial perspective. We're your hosts, Autumn Wolf.
And Jera Stone. And we have a returning guest. Now, pretty much it's just him this time. We don't have the full brood.
Right.
But we got Tim back. You guys remember from the polyamory episode.
Mm-hmm. Hi, I'm Tim.
Hello, Tim.
Hello. I am also being very subdued right now. No, I'm kidding.
We were dying so bad that
Yes.
T was like, can we start recording? Can we
Let's
start recording?
Let's do this.
Right.
This is what happens when we have Tim in studio. It takes us like 30 minutes to actually start recording.
Yes.
Well, I mean, it's only been 6 minutes since he said let's start recording, so that's not terrible.
No.
Oh, yeah.
We had a laugh fest.
Yes. This is like the 20th take.
I've got about 20 minutes of pre-roll, just FYI.
Oh, okay, cool.
So, anyway,
We asked Tim to return because Tim is a historian?
Yeah, historian.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I had this brilliant idea of having October episodes be all about like spooky witchy stuff because we're spooky witches.
yeah.
Ooh. And now we've decided that because this topic is so extensive and Tim really dug his heels in and learned so much that he's going to write a book about it, that this is going to be 2 episodes. So part 1 of Witch Trial History.
Yeah. Oh, they're looking at me like I should say something.
So Tim wants
Son
to
of a bee.
reintroduce himself because it's not just a coming of witch story, it's
That's
a coming of history.
That's
Dun,
true.
da, da, da.
So yeah, hi, I'm Tim. Those of you who heard me before, I was in the polyamory chat with my lovely wife and our girlfriend. We're also part of a band called Far From Home, which is awesome.
Yes, agreed.
And this journey of mine started honestly and truly back when I was in high school. I mean, really and truly. Back then, I was still very much the Joe Christian, going to church every Sunday, every Wednesday for choir practice, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that lifestyle. It's just there was something that never quite set right with me personally. And so I started looking at other things that, people believed in and everything. And I stumbled across Druidism, which then turned me into looking more at the history of why. Why do Christians believe everything that they believe? Where did all of this come from? And so that started the transformation to come out of the broom closet. Yay!
Mm-hmm.
And hello, I'm a witch. No, I didn't.
It's pretty much how it happened.
Yeah,
to
I
me
know,
too.
right?
I mean,
Yeah.
I
Oh,
know.
by the way, Mom, I'm a witch.
Mine was
Yeah.
stumble. I'm open for business, bitches.
Right?
I mean, witches.
Witches.
Whoops.
Witches.
Yeah.
After high school, got married, got divorced, got married again, got divorced, moved out to Arizona, didn't get married for a while.
Learned your lesson, did you?
Learned my lesson. And,
Growth period.
exactly. And during all of that time, it was a time period of self-reflection and everything for me to figure out what exactly I believed in and what made sense to me. And what helped me with that was going through history. So 7 or 8 years ago, I went back to college to start earning my history and degree, which I did graduate in 2016. God, really? Or was it 17?
Congratulations.
Wow. It's been a while. I graduated recently with my BA in history with a minor in religion, and the majority of the classes that I ended up taking were either medieval or Jewish or witches. Yeah.
Witches.
Yeah. ASU has a fantastic program, their history program there, in my opinion, is probably one of the best because it's very diverse. It's not just your standard military history and remember dates and facts and which king succeeded whom and all of that stuff. I mean, that all of that is very important about history, but you're just getting the raw data. You're not getting the context. Mm-hmm. And to me, as a historian, it's very important to understand the context of why things happened. Mm-hmm. So my capstone paper that I did was about the Salem witch trials. And I was like, dude, there's a fucking class on Salem shit. Yeah, I'm going to take it. I just said fucking shit.
You and me out about bitches.
Yeah, well, because bitches, man. Oh, damn it. No. What the hell? There we go. Throw out ass and we're done. Okay.
Yep.
Titties. So
trash can full of words.
Trash can full of words.
We're just picking through it, throw them over our
dirty
shoulder.
Word salad now. Yes. Let's just toss that salad around and just have some. No.
You don't have enough scrotum in your salad, sir.
I'm so sorry. Let me put some more penis and scrotum in there. And don't let me ruin it with too much taint, though. Because, just a dash of taint and you're good.
Yep.
All right. How to make a perfect tossed salad according to the jail system. No.
Waiter, there's a finger in my salad.
I mean, we're talking about the justice system, but we're not getting into corrections yet.
Okay. All right, I think I'm good.
And our sound guy has tapped out for the day.
I'm good. We're done. All right. So,
we got 2 full episodes here, people.
Yes. So I decided to take this class on Salem witch trials, and basically the end goal was to write a paper that dealt with something with the Salem witch trials. And other classes that I had previously taken were things like the ancient Greek religion and Jews in antiquity, talking about the historical origin of the Jewish people, not necessarily the Jewish faith. And then, of course, I have taken so many Jewish classes at ASU, I could have had a second degree in Jewish studies. I didn't necessarily want to say a minor in Judaism because that's just weird because, little Jewish kids creep me out. No, I'm kidding. I'm totally kidding. There's nothing wrong with Jewish kids.
I guess that's better than my minor.
Yeah.
My major was criminology. My minor was criminal justice administration. Because I just kept taking too many criminal justice courses. They were like, we have to hand you another degree.
Yeah, that's what happened with me at MCC. When I was getting my associates, I walked up and they handed me 3 diplomas. And I'm like, the fuck? What did I do to get this? And they were like, you just took a lot of classes.
Yeah.
And I was one of those weird ones that always looked to see if I could like double and triple dip in my classes to see if I can, get more credits in other areas of study, because I'm just gonna say it. I'm coming out of the closet now. I'm a Ravenclaw.
Totally.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I've even done the weird, what combo houses are you? And I ended up being Ravenclaw with the side of Ravenclaw.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I can see that.
Yeah.
I've been Gryffindor my whole entire childhood on, and now people are like, but you're so puff.
Yeah.
And I'm like, angry badger with a side of lion.
Yeah, I can see that totally. It's that fine Danish blood.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I took this class, and my main paper was to compare certain ancient cultic practices to what they considered witchcraft in Salem. And I have to throw out some definitions here because number one, religion, when it comes to ancient practices, is not a word that anybody should ever use. And the reason why is because religion actually comes from the Latin word religio, which means order. And religio really didn't deal with anything until after the Catholic Church started taking over. So, yeah, exactly. And they were like, do your words, and smacking you with the knuckle crackers and all of that stuff. So when you're talking about the ancient world, you really should not use the word religion. You should use the word cultic practices. Because, I have a quote. Oh, hold on. Where is it? Yeah, I know. This is going to be the whole thing. Is hold on!
Wait, cut that out.
The term religion does not fit into what the ancient people practiced. It was more cult-based, specifically in ancient Greece with the peoples of the Mycenaean and the Minoan civilizations. The term cult identifies a pattern of ritual behavior in connection with specific objects within a framework of spatial and temporal coordinates. Rituals would include, but are not necessarily limited to, prayer, sacrifices, votive offerings, blah, 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 blah. Whereas religion is more organized with specific books, dogma, and a hierarchy. So that is what this entire... where everything started to go wrong.
So pretty much politicizing practices.
Yes, politicizing practices. And if you had to pick a specific point in time when everything started to go in different directions, it would have been the year 319 with the Edict of Milan. This was written by Emperor Constantine, who was in charge of the Holy Roman Empire at that point in time. And even though he was in charge of the Holy Roman Empire, he was still very pagan himself. He still believed in the old Roman practices and, prayed to Jupiter and Venus and all of the different deities at that point in time. And this is 300 years after the birth, I have to say, with the quoting marks, even though... quoties. Yes, air quoties. The birth of Yeshua of Nazareth, which a lot of people know him by his Greek name, Jesus. Segue. I wrote a paper in a history of the New Testament class that I took, which was fascinating because they were looking at it from an archaeological standpoint, not necessarily from a religious standpoint. I'm telling you, ASU has some great classes. But on the first little introduction thing, we had to fill out, why are you taking this class? So many people were like, because I love God, and he just spoke to me to take this class.
Drop this class now.
Yeah, right.
Yes.
And I was like, well, my introduction was, yes, I'm a history major with a religious minor. I've been studying the works of Yeshua of Nazareth, which many people call him Jesus by his Greek name. And I went on for a while, and somebody was like, Yeshua's not his name. His name is Jesus. Pretty much everybody in that class had that voice in my head as I was reading through their responses. And I'm like, oh, honey. Even the guys, oh, honey.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't have a problem with people who firmly believe in Christianity. I have a problem with people who blindly believe. And even if you go into a Jewish synagogue and talk to a rabbi, the rabbi will tell you question everything.
Yep.
And if you have questions, come talk to me because I've got answers. No? And then typically they would have an answer. And part of my problem with growing up in the Christian church, in the faith, was if I had a question, well, why do we do communion every Sunday? Oh, because God told us to. Because it's in the Bible, or this is what we've always done, or, something along those lines. It's blind faith. It's just doing what you're told, which is what religions were there to do, to make you do as you were told. Ha, tied it back in. So then I had to find out, how did it go from ancient cultic practices to in 1690s being the absolute worst thing in the world, aka satanic witchcraft? How did it evolve that way? And the only way to do that is to look at the paper trail. And there is, thankfully, because of the Catholic Church, there is a huge paper trail that you can follow with all of the papal edicts and the bulls that they wrote and other works that came out. And this, once again, all starts in 319.
They loved writing about themselves.
Yes. So 319, Constantine says, hey, these guys, this young upstart church, the Christians, they're not bad. We should let them do their worship. That's fine. We don't care. We will not persecute them or the Jews anymore. So they can live in the Roman lands and not be put to death anymore. That's what the Edict of Milan said. And then in 325, Constantine was, between then and 325, Constantine was like, hey, this Christianity's not bad. Maybe we should all be Christian. So he converted to Christianity, and the Council of Nicaea happened. Hey. Yeah, I know. And the Council of Nicaea is, if you could say, the starting point of the burning years. That's it right there. Because
let's see all these things written about women. Toss them!
Toss them!
Throw them away! Lilith, throw her away.
Yeah.
Mary Magdalene, throw her away. Mary, throw her away.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and really and truly what it started off to do, for those people who don't know, is they sat down to define what each Catholic Church should believe and have one Bible. Because at that point, there were like 30 different Bibles. Because, I mean, you have to think historically, they didn't have printers like we do nowadays. That wasn't until the 1500s, but that's another story. So there were monks sitting in these cells all day long with low visibility, being able to see, and they had to handwrite everything.
I like this story best, so I'm putting it here in my
exactly.
Bible.
Exactly. And, I mean, there were even... segue. There were small events or occurrences where the monks even got bored with what they were doing, and they started doodling in the margins.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I can't have sex.
Yeah, right?
Drink.
I can't do this, I can't do that, but I'm going to draw a picture of boobs. Yeah.
Oh shit, my boss is coming by.
Oh,
Make it
God.
look like a puppy.
Flip. All right, we're good now. Boss is gone. Flip. And now we're going to draw a cat next to the boobs. So, it's some crazy shit. So, Council of Nicaea literally fucked the pagans. Yep. Because it not only defined what the Catholic Church believed in, but it also defined what they didn't believe in. And so that's when you get the word heretic. It comes roughly from the Council of Nicaea. And a heretic, by definition, is a person who is in the Catholic Church that does not exactly believe every single thing that the Catholics are supposed to believe in. I believe I'm sitting in with a couple heretics right now, so it's cool. Yeah.
Three of them.
Exactly. That's fine. I gotta go now. Bye.
It's a room full of heretics.
I fear for my life. Somebody sent cookies.
And milk.
So, there's your starting point. And that's where this tale is going to begin. And I know it's going to be rambly, and there's going to be some dips and turns, so please ask me questions if you need clarification, because I've been studying this stuff for a long time. All right, so another thing that we need to discuss is Satan. Satan? And the only reason why I say that is because this is specifically satanic witchcraft, which was poo-pooed on in the Middle Ages all the way up through the Renaissance, culminating in the Salem witch trials.
Stop sleeping with that Salem.
Yeah,
now.
I know, right?
Not even a condom can help you with that evil.
So I haven't fully fleshed out this question for the book yet, mostly because that's another huge rabbit hole. I mean, according to rabbinic Judaic texts, Satan is not a specific mythological entity. And I have to say mythologic because, he had never actually lived. And I know...
we believe Yahshua did.
Yeah, and there are people who believed it, and that's what mythology is. Mythology is just an ancient religion, and Judaism is an ancient religion. So in the book of Genesis, they talk about Satan, according to later translations. The original word was ha-Satan. Ha-Satan literally just means adversary. So Satan as an entity is not actually believed in by the Jewish people, or at least, from what I understand. I can't necessarily speak for all of the Jewish people, because Satan, quote fingers, is just the adversary. That's all it is. So, I mean, if you were to punch me in the face, all of a sudden I could yell, Hasatin! Because you are my adversary now, and we can get into a battle, because that's what they did. So, also according to the ancient Jewish rabbinic texts, they talk about Lucifer Morningstar, who was God's right-hand angel at one point in the history of the cosmos. And Lucifer started questioning God and asking, why are we doing these things? And a rebellion ensued. And it was literally, quote-unquote, half of the heavenly host against the other half. So we're talking like, the Civil War just on a grander scale. Mm-hmm. Lucifer and his followers were defeated eventually, and he was cast out of heaven along with all of the angels that fought with him. When he was cast out of heaven, the story varies there whether he was actually cast down into Sheol, which is the underworld, which in the 13th century became hell by Dante Alighieri.
Thanks, Dante.
Yeah, right?
You and your 7 levels.
And, it was either he went down into Sheol, which is the underworld, or he and his followers roamed across the surface of the earth. Now, when you get into the book of Enoch, which is an apocryphal book of the Bible, and it is not a part of the Catholic canon, you get a different story of Noah's Ark, wherein they talk about the Nephilim. The Nephilim were the Watchers, aka a different branch of angels, that were sent down to Earth to watch over humanity as they were growing. Oddly enough, in the Noah's Ark movie that was put out fairly recently.
The one where there was creepy dad on daughter thingies going on?
Yep.
Ah!
That's actually biblical.
Yeah.
Yeah. They showed the Nephilim, but in that movie, they were these giant rock things. Yeah. Weird. But
man.
According to the book of Enoch, the Nephilim were human enough. They were super tall, but they were human enough to be able to reproduce with human women. And so because of that act, that sin, so to speak, they were told never to come back. Ever. And they had to perish along with the rest of everybody in the flood. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, because the God of the Old Testament was very vengeful. Yeah. They called him El.
El?
Yeah, E-L. El.
Wow.
Yeah. Which was an ancient, also the same name as an ancient, like, Babylonian or Assyrian god who was a storm god. And many of the pictures that you see of El have a really big white curly beard and white curly hair. I wonder where that moved to.
Mm-hmm.
So, the Nephilim, some say that the Nephilim were part of the rebellious angels that were thrown out of heaven. Some say that they were a different sect altogether. There's still a lot of speculation and conjecture because, I mean, this is like super BCE, before Common Era, that things were going down.
He keeps losing angels.
Yeah, so kind of like they were kind of like a third party. They didn't really side with anybody,
Yeah.
but because God saw that, he's like, yeah, you guys, you didn't help me out by.
Yeah, pretty much.
And
yeah.
you're doing things that I told
And
you
then-
not to, and now.
And then they started boning the natives and popping out babies.
Yeah.
As you do.
I can't claim these. I don't have enough like inheritance to give to grandchildren. Are you crazy?
Right. So, yeah, Satan is an important part of how satanic witchcraft came to be. I'm going to be looking into that for later, further on in my research. So things to look at later would be the Book of Enoch, which you can easily find PDF forms online.
Mm-hmm.
The Torah, the Kabbalah. Once again, easily find those online. Oh gosh, timeline. There's so much that goes on in the timeline. That's going to be a huge part of this. So we're going to start with the Council of Nicaea after the break and go from there to somewhere. I don't know where we're going to end up, but we'll keep going on with this line.
So pretty much once this minecart starts going, just hold on for dear life.
Yes. Think of Temple of Doom, and try not to shit yourselves, folks.
That's why this is going to be a two-parter.
Yeah.
So we will be...
Two.
We'll be right back after this short break. Millennial Pagan Podcast is exclusively supported by Patreon. Listeners like you can gain great benefits from your favorite show, such as...
At $1 a month, you get a personalized shout-out at the end of the next full-length episode.
At $5 a month, you receive a thank you card in the mail with a Millennial Pagan Podcast button and sticker enclosed. Additionally, $5 a month supporters have access to our monthly 30-minute minisodes.
Patreon supporters are also the first to learn about new and exciting updates to Millennial Pagan Podcast.
More benefits and exclusive content to come.
All right, and we're back from that break. We got the water, we got the seatbelts on, we're in the minecart, and I think we're ready to kind of go in this this deep dive into the burning time.
The burning times. So before I do this, I have a little story to tell. When I was speaking with my academic advisor about my paper that I wrote for my capstone, I know she had this concerned, crazy look on her face because I was doing the Charlie Day meme where I've got like the board up with the lines and everything, and I was like, but over here, and then this, and then that, and she's just like,
it only needs to be 37 pages, dear.
Yeah, right. I mean, I pared it down to 12 because I cut out a lot of stuff, thankfully. And that was also the bare minimum that it had to be, so I was good with that. With cover and like citations, it ended up being like 16 anyway. Oh,
wow.
Yeah, and that was just for one class, and that, yeah. So since then, I've uncovered a whole bunch of other stuff, and like just recently I was rereading through the paper, and I'm like, oh, I forgot about increased mather and cotton mather, and I forgot about the mathers and cases of conscience, and I forgot this, and I forgot that. And I realized I didn't need to have these in the book because that was during Salem, and I'm not going to be in the book discussing Salem. I'm going to be what led up to Salem.
Ooh.
Yes. Because, I mean, when you look at all of the different academic and secular books that have been put out about Salem, they discuss, the witches, of course. They discuss why it started. There's even a book that deals with the socioeconomic climate in that time period. Mm-hmm. And one of the big things in the book was if you look at the people who were accused versus the accusers, most of the accusers were rich and the accusees were not, but the accusees had better land, so the accusers wanted to get their land. So that was a really interesting take as to, why Salem happened, and it was as bad as it was. So we are going to start this roller coaster ride shortly, well, not really shortly, but in the year-ish 900 AD, when the Canon Episcopi was written, which was a kind of a rebuttal to St. Augustine of Hippo. All hail St. Augustine. He actually has a lot of really great works that he wrote. He wrote his main works, which was City of God, as well as his Confessions, which was the first autobiography that was ever written and kept around. Basically, it was him going, I'm such a terrible sinner. My life sucked. And these are the choices that I made. Don't do this. Yeah. I know, like, in the first few chapters, he starts bitching about these pears that he stole from his neighbor. And it wasn't because he didn't have any pears, because his mom was growing pears. But the neighbor's pears were bigger and juicier and more plump and tastier. And it was wrong to take them. So they made it taste better. And, yeah, he goes on this rant about the pears. And it's like, Jesus.
It's always better still.
Let it go. So... Canon Episcopi was written, and St. Augustine says that witchcraft did not exist, and that to teach that was a reality in itself, false and a heretical teaching. So Regino of Prum wrote the Canon Episcopi. Yeah, Prum.
I was about to say, these sound like fake names.
Yeah, I know, right? No, these are for reals peoples. He says specifically, the Holy Church must be cleansed of the pest of the devil. It is also not to be admitted that some uncertain or unconstrained women, preserved by Satan, seduced by illusions of phantasm and demons, believe and openly profess in the dead of the night that they ride upon certain beasts with the pagan goddess Diana, with a council horde of women, and in the silence of the dead of night, to fly over vast tracts of country, and to obey her commands as their mistress, and to be summoned to her service on other nights. So, the Canon Episcopi basically is saying, this is what witches are doing. And it's all in league with the pagan goddess Diana, also known as Artemis in the Greek pantheon. This is also later on in witch lore, but and I've read many different articles about this. They say that witches ride on brooms, and this became a popular myth that witches fly around on brooms. And where they could trace this back to was, I don't remember which edict it was, but they were talking about how witches would anoint their broom shafts with different herbal tinctures and medicine, and use those as toys to, be able to put the herbs up inside them uterинally, and there would be certain hallucinogenic and psychotropic qualities to these herbs, so they felt like they were flying on their broomsticks. And I know, archaeologically speaking, somebody actually got a hold of an old broom that had those herbs and stuff on it and was able to do a chemical analysis to corroborate that, yes, when they say that witches flew around on brooms, they were just fucking themselves.
Okay, then.
So there is actual archaeological proof of this.
Yes.
And somebody in the church wrote it down.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's an actual thing.
That's an actual thing. Yes.
Harry Potter's so weird right now.
Oh, Ron, let me give you a ride on my Nimbus 2000. Oh, Harry, that's amazing. Ooh, I feel like I'm flying. Draco, you have to try my Nimbus 2000. Suck it, Potter.
I have a Nimbus 2000.
I've got my own Nimbus 2000, you little bastard.
Well, that's why the Nimbus toy vibrates now.
Oh my god.
Put it in second gear. True facts.
Mm-hmm.
Brought to you by Papa Dill.
Bloopers?
No, that's staying in the show.
That was such a serious nope.
Yeah.
Real showtime.
So, about the years 200 to 500, the Talmud, Jewish books, described different forms of punishments and executions for the witchcraft. Now, much later, which I'll get into that point, Pope Gregory the Ninth, IX, he actually outlawed the Talmud. But that's Jewish treatment, and that's another whole... I might be doing my own podcast from here forward. You guys are invited.
Yay!
Yay!
I don't have time for a second.
Yeah, I know, right? So let's see here. Timeline stuff. John of Salisbury wrote his skepticism about the reality of witches riding in the night in 1154.
Speculates that they don't do that because it's dark.
1230s, an Inquisition came about against heresy that was established in the Roman Catholic Church. Okay, so the Inquisition.
What a show.
Exactly.
We must decide whether or not this is true and send people to investigate for centuries.
So there were many different inquisitions that happened. One of the main inquisitions, of course, we know is the Spanish Inquisition.
Pink.
Yes.
One.
Oh,
One.
yes.
One.
One Spanish Inquisition. The Spanish Inquisition was started by Ferdinand II and Isabella of Spain. Oddly enough, the same people who gave Columbus his commission to come and wipe out Native Americans. Huh. But, that's...
They don't make very smart decisions, do
well,
they, as monarchs?
Yeah. We'll say that.
What they?
So, yes, we had an Inquisition that happened in the 1200s, and this is before even all of the Crusades were going down, because the Crusades were mostly innocent. Innocent started the Crusades. But Pope Gregory IX, I mentioned him already, he wrote like 18 different papal bulls. The ones that were most important to the case of witchcraft were both in 1233. The first one is called Vox in Rama, and he calls for action against Luciferians and a supposed sect of devil worshippers. So the Luciferians were Catholics, but they worshipped Lucifer instead of God. So he went to go find out where these Luciferians were and root them out and get rid of them. Also in Vox and Rama, he brought up the first actual written down. There's a word there. But anyway, he first wrote down that witches and cats were linked together, and cats were familiars of the devil. So that's the first time that it was actually written down. I mean, it was probably oral tradition up until then, but Gregory said, cats is bad. And his second one, the Licit ad Capiendos, in 1233, marks the start of the Inquisition against the Luciferians by the church. Now, later in 1235, he wrote the Cuma Hora Undecima. I know I'm butchering the Latin because I studied Russian, not Latin. If it was in Russian, I could be like, oh, здравствуйте, меня зовут Дил, я машина. All right, so Gregory IX also wrote a bull authorizing friars to preach to the pagan nations. That's the Cum Hora Undecimia. So he already knows that there are pagan nations out there, and he knows that they are not believers of the Catholic Church, and so he knew that they were still doing the ancient practices, which was, going out into the woods and looking for herbs to cure people and medicine people. This was medicine that we were doing. And yes, I'm saying we because, damn it, I'm a witch, and I'm proud of it.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. So Pope Alexander IV came around in 1258, and he accepted that sorcery and communication with demons was amounted to a kind of heresy, which still is kind of weird because heresy is only if you are a believer of that religion, not if you're a believer of another religion. So this opened up the possibility of the Inquisition concerned with heresy being involved with witchcraft investigations. So Alexander IV was a douche because he opened up, all of us pagans to be persecuted as heretics. Then the motherfucker, Thomas Aquinas, and I have to say the motherfucker Thomas Aquinas because he's a bastard. Now, the people of the Christian and Catholic faith believe that Thomas Aquinas was a fantastic theologian, and he was. He wrote some really good stuff. But in Summa Theologiae, Thomas Aquinas briefly addressed sorcery and magic. He assumed that consulting demons included making a pact with them, which was, by definition, apostasy. Aquinas accepted that demons could assume the shapes of actual people. So, this also further defines what satanic witchcraft is. All because of fucking Thomas Aquinas. 1306 to 1315, the church moved to eliminate the Knights Templar. Among the charges were heresy, witchcraft, and devil worship. Now, interesting segue right here. The Christian, and I have to say Christian, image of Baphomet came from this time period. And I know a lot of people are out there going, wait, Baphomet is satanic. No. Baphomet, according to history, was a construct of the Catholic Church to look like what they considered the devil to look like. And this was, of course, before Dante Alighieri had his, mushroom trip or whatever the fuck he did and went on his journey all the way through hell and up. But Baphomet was created based off of an Arabic word, which I cannot remember for the life of me right now, and I need to look into that a little bit further. But it was based off of an Arabic word because they would, in the Muslim faith, they would say some kind of chant and prayer that to something that sounded like Baphomet, but really and truly it was just another name for God, or Yahweh, as whoever you want to call him. And so they created this image with the horns and the cloven feet and everything to start saying, oh, well, look, the Knights Templar believe in that because the Muslims do too. So they are in league with the devil.
Okay.
Yeah. I know. And this, it's just weird little tidbits that I find and I lose and then come back in my brain as I'm talking about stuff. So yeah. I'm sure that there are people out there who are going to go, well, that's not exactly right, and that's fine. This is what I have personally learned, and anybody is more than welcome to reach out to me to have further discussions about everything.
And he's my expert, not yours.
Yeah. Oh, that's so weird.
I couldn't find another one.
No, it's so weird for anybody to call me an expert on anything. I'm just a guy who likes to fucking read.
Read and retain.
Yeah, and retain. Yeah,
and
that's
regurgitate.
True. That's true.
Yeah.
And I do like to regurgitate.
Not on my mic.
I was waiting for him to take a drink because I'm an asshole.
These were donated.
No, these are great mics. I love the sound on them. Yeah. So we're gonna skip over Innocent because he wasn't all that innocent. John the 12th issued several bulls identifying more sorcery with heresy and pacts with the devil. We're going to skip right over him because,
they're making you mad now. These popes of their bulls and heresy.
Oh my gosh. And really and truly, all they were doing was continuing to define what happened at the Council of Nicaea and change it. But, I mean, well, no, that's another story.
Or add on to it. Or pretend that they were there.
I know where you're going with that.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah. So in 1317 in France, a bishop was executed for using witchcraft in an attempt to kill Pope John the 22nd. Yeah, XXII. This was one of several assassination plots again around that time against the Pope or a king. And from the 1300s, there's not a huge amount of documentation for witches. The main reason why? The Black Death.
Everybody else is dying anyway. Why do we need to kill people?
Why are we worried about witches when everybody else is dying? Oh, it's because witches started the Black Death. Oh, those damn dirty Muslims. No, I don't have any problem with them. That was them saying it, not me.
Yeah.
There's a lot of finger pointing and everything. So 1340 to 1351, roughly, Black Death swept through all of Europe, adding to the willingness of people to see conspiracies against Christendom, resulting in the deaths of an estimated 75 to 200 million people just in Eurasia. That was just the Black Death that swept them out. Now, there were also a lot of other historical factors that went into it. There was a drought, there was a bad winter, so food stores were low, people were starving and malnourished, and then the ships came in from across the ocean with the rats with the fleas on it, and the fleas just went nuts. And that's how there are many wonderful books out there about the Black Death. I've got one at home right now, obviously, and I'm
just
not
one?
yet. Just one for now, because I want to get my feet wet into it before I start dipping in like I did with witches. we were driving to a friend's birthday party, and the theme was burning in hell or birthday from hell or whatever. And so we didn't want to dress up because I knew I had to do this and the girls had to do other things. And I was like, oh, I got it. We're modern witches. Because, we can't wear clothing that doesn't look like what everybody else wears so that, they can't point us out like they did in medieval Europe. And I'll get to the hats later.
Okay.
Does it have things to do with beer?
There is that theory.
Okay.
Yeah, there is that theory,
That
which
beer.
was very interesting, and I did go down that line.
There's not a whole lot of evidence.
And not that I've uncovered yet, but it will happen if there is real evidence. So, Black Death, bad. Council of Basel, which was also known as the Council of Florence. That lasted from 1431 to 1449.
I like basil more than Florence.
Yeah. I mean, anything Florentine is good because it's got spinach.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, like, Florentine Henderson was, the Brady Bunch mom who had spinach in her teeth the whole time, right?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
My maternal grandmother was named Florence.
So, did she eat a lot of spinach?
I don't remember.
Because does she have forearms like Popeye? Just to hug
No.
you?
She
No?
had a whole
Okay.
lot of books, though.
Oh, well, that's good. That's
where
good. She probably
I think that's where my bibliophile thing came
curling, yes.
from. Yep. Hi. Yep. Okay.
So, not a lot happened during the Council of Basel. But what did happen was many Catholic leaders all came together in one area. And so, just like it happens when you get many people together, gossip started happening. And the gossip more than likely turned from godly things to satanic things to witches. And everybody was like, oh, well, here, I got a story for you about witches. And so they would talk about witches and what was going on in their areas to be able to spread the word of how to handle these issues.
She turned me into a newt.
A newt, hey?
I got better.
All right.
You still have a weird smell, though.
Well, that's natural.
Yeah.
That was before the newt.
Yeah.
That was below the newt.
About 1450, another papal bull or decree was written called Aurorius Gazazorium. Gazazorium. Yes, Aurorius Gazazorium. I have not fully dipped into what the Aurorius Gazazorium is about yet because I just found out about it last night.
It sounds like a chapter in the Kama Sutra.
Kind of, yeah. So I'll get more on the information on that later, and that will be in the book, most definitely. I know that I've got the book that actually has the primary source in it in my personal collection, which actually is sitting in my backpack over there. So, yes, I'll read more about that later. But in 1478, dun-dun, the Spanish Inquisition.
And we will save that for our next episode.
Yes.
Yes. We want to thank our newest Patreon supporter, Storm, for supporting our show on Patreon.
Yes.
You can support us as well and hear our 30-minute minisodes on Patreon.
Yep. Great episodes. You guys are missing out if you're not supporting.
So much fun. You can find the podcast on Instagram under Pagan Pod, on Twitter under Pagan Pod, and on Facebook as Millennial Pagan Podcast. You can also drop us an email at millennialpaganpod.gmail.com.
At Gmail.
I said at Gmail.
You said .gmail.com.
Where can they find you, Jera Correcta?
Of course, on Twitter at Jarastone, and of course on Instagram, see my awesome cosplays and my life at Haggard _cosplay.
Underscore.
114. No, everything after that was wrong.
And if they're angry about the history you just laid down and want to fight you,
Yeah,
Tim,
fight me.
where can they fight you?
You can fight me at my house, which is no.
I didn't mean that. No physical
Bring
abuse.
it! No.
You live too close
entertainment
to me.
from
Don't
the
I know,
find me.
right?
Entertainment for the party.
Entertainment for the party. November 2nd. What? So, yes, you can find me on Facebook with either Far From Home which is we, letter R, Far From Home. Or Far From Home Presents. I don't remember what that one is, but it just type in Far From Home and put Presents at the end of it. The Presents is definitely more for the mythology and teaching stuff. Far From Home is my band. What? And if you didn't listen to the Poly talk a couple episodes back, you missed out. We might actually throw in one of my other songs for this one. I'll talk with T in a bit.
I'm okay with that.
All right.
Yeah.
Awesome. And you can find me personally on Facebook and Twitter as Autumn Wolf. You can also find me on our Instagram because that's my Instagram. You can also find me on Iron Wolf Circle at WordPress.
Quiet, you're going to start a howl.
Werewolves.
ironwolfcircle.wordpress.com.
I don't care. You can find Iron Wolf Circle at WordPress.
Can I give a little teaser for the next episode?
Sure.
Yeah, you ready for this? Werewolves were also tried in Europe during the Burning Years.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that.
The faces. Yeah. So, from all of us here at Millennial Pagan Podcast, merry meet.
Merry part.
And merry meet again.